Hello, Basin Bison. Some quick personal examples of mine about the importance of paying close attention to details. And you'll see these in each illustration. Number one, on my first mule deer buck hunt as a non-resident hunter in Arizona, I was using an identical rifle as my dad. It was a .284 Winchester automatic with a clip and a 4-power Weaver scope with a dot. Those that are hunters understand what I'm talking about. I was in some heavy oak and brush, and I raised my gun and got a massive buck in my crosshairs. I pulled the trigger and click. I'd forgotten to put a bullet in the chamber and the buck was gone. Now, if I'd paid just a little bit more attention to details, I would have had more success. Example number two. I was going fishing in my 14-foot aluminum boat and realized out in the water, out in the lake, I'd forgotten to put a bolt plug in the hole at the back of the boat. Well, the boat was taking on water fast. Another example. If I'd just been a little bit more attentive to details, I'd had better success. Third example. This is a time I went fishing at Mount Warner with one of my friends, Les Bennett, and my youngest son, Paul. We caught our limit of 4 fish each, or so we thought. As I counted them as we came to shore in the boat, we had 13. Luckily for us, the visiting Fish and Game warden did not check our fishing licenses or fish limit as we came to load the boat after a morning of fishing. Once again, another example. If I'd just been paying a little bit more attention to details. Fourth example. As a sophomore student at Dixie High School in St. George, I served as our sophomore class president. In a homecoming bonfire competition between the other two classes, the juniors and seniors, I and another 2 friends built a huge bonfire on the Red Hill just down from the Dixie on the Sugarloaf in St. George. We then left the fire to go roller skating, actually at my dad's roller rink. That was where all the classes were meeting to have fun. We built the bonfire too close to a telephone pole, and it caught on fire. Fire trucks were later called to put out the blaze. I was notified at the roller rink of this. I felt really bad. And as seniors, we put together a song, Those Moments We Remember. And there was a line there that they added that went like this. The day we burn the phone pole down, we will have these moments to remember. Again, attention to detail, not very good. Now, on a positive note, to attention to my details, my sophomore class officers that year and I won the homecoming float competition because of our detail in making a beautiful sun on the back of our float. And finally, this example from our very own Basin online math instructor, Mr. Hinkson, and I quote, "With attention to detail," he says, "I think about the story of the joint project between NASA and Lockheed Martin to put a probe into orbit around Mars. Basically, they hired a Lockheed Martin who used imperial units to calculate things in a computer program. Then they joined program with the rest of systems that would make the probe operable. When the probe reached Mars and tried to get into orbit, it slowed down way too much and crashed into the atmosphere, ripping itself to pieces. They later found that the program from Lockheed Martin was the only program to use imperial units. Everything else used metric units. That means that the one program was telling the probe to slow down. We don't know how fast for sure, but let's say at the rate of 15 feet per second. But the probe would have translated that as 15 meters per second. That's 49 feet per second for us imperial unit users, or 3 times more slowing down than expected. If they had paid attention to detail, they could have saved the probe by changing the computer program. According to Caitlin Mazur in her article, Attention to Detail, What is it? And Examples, she says, what is attention to detail? Attention to detail is the ability you have to efficiently and accurately allocate your cognitive abilities to focus on a specific task or number of tasks. It means thinking through the details with a critical eye, as well as minimizing distractions and learning how to focus on what really matters. The term attention to detail is a common phrase that many job recruiters and hiring managers have seen time and time again on a resume. That's why it's not enough to just write that you have attention to detail on your resume. Expanding on this skill and giving specific examples is where the true value lies. Why is attention to detail important at work or school? Well, having great attention to detail at work or school means you will minimize any errors or mistakes to happen. When mistakes happen, even small ones, they can have a potentially huge impacts and setbacks for a job. Or at school, employers or teachers don't want someone who will cause any errors that will potentially give them any kind of setbacks. Some benefits of having great attention to detail could include producing high quality work, being efficient, being trustworthy. I came across another article entitled, "What Happens When You Forget to Add Sugar to Your Cookie Recipe?" It was published December 7th, 2015. To sum up the experience of cookies made without sugar, the person says, here's what I can tell you about what happened to this chocolate cookie recipe when no sugar was present. Number one, the cookies were not sweet. Number two, the cookies were extremely fragile. Number three, the cookies didn't brown quite the same. And number four, the cookies were not delicious. So as to how I could sum up the results, don't forget to add sugar to your cookies. It's an ingredient that helps them bake right and makes them delicious. Paying attention to details, I say, is like making sure you have all the ingredients for your cookie recipe. Part of the success of attention to detail, says Mr. Hinkson, is actually something called sustained focus. The basic idea is that you should be able to direct your attention to a task, then focus on that task and its pieces until the task is complete, because that's attention to detail. It involves breaking tasks into smaller pieces, finishing the smaller pieces, and putting the final product together. Then testing the thing to see if it works. Some examples of that process would be basically any engineering project, building project, or long-term project of any kind. Even traveling is a good example of attention to detail, because did you pack your toothbrush? Back to the article by Caitlin Mazur, Attention to Detail, What Is It and Examples, from June 12, 2022. She shares how to improve your attention to detail. Not sure if you have the experience you need to ensure you're paying enough attention to the details? It's not a problem. This skill can be improved over time, and you can start today in school, at your current job, and even your day-to-day life. One thing you can do is improve organization. You can't pay attention to detail without being organized. Ensure your calendar's up to date and that you have a good process for taking notes and setting reminders so you won't forget. For most people, the best way to stay organized is to ensure you have a tidy workspace and a filing system in place, whether it be paper-based or digital. Next, create lists. It'll be very rare for any professional to only have one thing to work on at a time. That's why it's so imperative to create lists and work against them. Keep a pen and paper nearby, or use a digital version of a notebook, like a notepad. Next, get into a routine. Building a routine is important to maintain your sanity, but it's also important to be efficient while maintaining your attention to detail. Routines will help you dedicate a specific amount of time to a given task so that you can balance your day well and ensure everything on your list gets done. This will help you make sure you stay focused. Next, quality over quantity. While quantity may be important in some cases, quality is always king. Maintaining an appropriate workload will allow you to produce quality work that you are proud of and give you the time and space to focus on the small details. Next, exercise your brain. Your brain is an amazing thing and can be trained to work in a variety of different ways. A good way to make sure you're paying attention to detail is to play games that help you train your brain's focus. Logic games like Sudoku, Rubik's Cubes, and chess are all great for boosting your cognitive capabilities. Next, practice meditation. Meditation has been proven to improve both your physical and mental health. Those who meditate regularly not only increase their ability to concentrate, but it also boosts your attention to detail and level of accuracy when completing projects. So, Basin Bison, learn, practice, and grow. As your executive skills class, Basin Bite for December 12th through Christmas break is attention to details. Merry Christmas.